Hey guys, it's Hayden. I'm not really sure if you can see me because I have this at a really awkward angle, but I don't want to sit down. I'm trying to stand up for these videos. Sorry for one, this video was really late today. As you can tell, I'm definitely not in the same location that I usually make my videos in. I'm actually in Washington. I got my leave time, so I'm in Washington State for the next 2 weeks, and I'm really happy because it's not New Mexico. Have to make this really fast. Sorry about that. And like I said, sorry, it's late. It's a different time zone over here, so it's probably like 3 hours ahead, like wherever you guys are. But it's like 4 or something here. Okay, so this week's topic is basically when you knew you were trans. I mean, as a kid, you don't know any terms. I didn't even know what gay was as a kid. So, for me to actually look at myself and identify as trans was these past like 6 months really. I know there's some people that say, yeah, I knew when I was 2 or 5 or 6 or I mean, the word trans wasn't in my vocabulary. I knew I was different from a young age, and I knew if I did things that boys would do, or if I wore boy clothes, I felt much more comfortable. Just didn't know there was a name for it. At 13 and 14, I actually would stay up late watching the sex changes on the Discovery Health channel, and I used to think, that could never be me. I mean, because usually when they got the sex changes on the TV show, they got everything done, And I've never been so inclined to the bottom surgery, so I thought you had to have all that surgery, and you had to fit into all these categories. The whole I've known since I was 2 years old. I thought there had to be so many things that you had to fit into to be trans. So I didn't think I could relate to that. Although there were some things that I did relate to it as, I didn't think I could be trans. Though looking back my whole life, anytime I hung out with the guys, like I said, got my cousin's hand-me-downs for for school, or, anytime that I was accepted in some way, by guys, by men, got to do guy activities, got to see Star Wars, it always made me feel better about myself. The more I dressed like a guy, the more I talked like a guy, the more guy friends that I had, I just felt like I was a part of something. And every time I was forced to wear a dress or get those little, what do you call them, those things that they put in your hair, I would feel miserable. I would hate my life. Like, I would cry. There's pictures of me that my mom took of me in like all these dresses, and I was literally just like, I had tears in my eyes and I was all red because I was just like, it made me so depressed. Um, so, but I mean, I didn't think I could just, raise my hand and be like, hey, I'm a boy, because, I mean, I thought if you're a boy, it wasn't something that was mental. I thought it had to be physical. And, I knew that boys had parts that I didn't have. I mean, there was no chest development at, like 7 years old. So I did have a boy's body until I hit puberty. I didn't know what this looked like for a guy. I just knew that it was different. Like, I never saw like pictures or anything. I just knew that we had different parts, and that somehow those different parts that came together made a baby. So it was kind of like a puzzle, But I wasn't really focused on sexuality as a kid. I didn't really care. I mean, I was like 7, whatever. But to me, I could run as fast as the guys. I could play Pokemon just as good as the guys. We would go out and dig holes and play fort and play Army Men and jump off big slides like we were macho, and that's all that mattered to me. I was accepted, and there was times where they wouldn't hang out with me, random days where they decided they couldn't hang out with me because I was a girl. But I didn't understand because I was capable of doing everything that they were at that age. Of course, you get older, they get muscles, and we tend to get curvy and weaker, but, I mean, when I was a kid, I was allowed to express myself. I was allowed to run around the neighborhood because it's okay when you're a tomboy, So, I mean, I didn't have a word for it back then. Looking back, yeah, if somebody had told me, hey, you can cut off your hair and, we'll just call you a boy name and you can be a little boy, I would have been so happy. I would have been like, yes, thank God, I don't have to ever wear a dress again. Like, I would have been ecstatic. but I just didn't think that was possible. I don't understand how like these 2-year-olds can look at their parents and say, I'm a boy. I mean, how they're not associating their body with their mind, you know, because I thought you had to. I thought, you know, being a boy or being a girl was physical. Um, it was around the beginning of this year that I started looking up, and I don't even know how I got onto it. Like I said, I watched sex change operations when I was 13, 14, 15, but somehow at the beginning of this year, I started looking up trans guy videos. I think I might have been looking at like a gay video, and there happened to be something on the sidebar, and I was like, huh, wait, hold on, transgender. Um, and I think the first person I came upon was Kai Ford, actually, and I was like, oh my god, like, wait a second, like, you're only 19. And I've been watching all these sex change surgeries, all these guys are like 35, right? So I started watching it, like, all the time. Like, I was like so amazed that there was people my age who were transitioning, and that they had had all the same feelings I had had, you know, but they didn't know when they were like 5. But just how they acted and how they were and how they felt about themselves were all the same things I had gone through. And they were transgendered. And they weren't lesbian, you know, and how they had come out as lesbian and how they didn't fit on them was everything that I felt. So I started watching these a lot, trying to decide if this was right for me, because there's a lot of talk right now on transgenders, and I might get myself into trouble for saying this, but I do think that there is transgenders out there. Alright, sorry, the battery died, so I'm kind of going back on the thing. I do think that there's transgenders out there that probably aren't going to get on any kind of hormone replacement therapy or get any surgeries, and I think that they're still just coming out because they're really young. The ones who are pretty young, we're talking like I've seen people come out at like 12 and 13, and I give them the benefit of the doubt, and I will call them male pronouns and such. But there's a couple of people that I do. I don't talk to them, but I have seen their videos, and I do think that they probably will just go back as lesbian or tomboyish. I just think there's a lot of trans media out there on the internet, and I do think that some people, when they're first coming out, are really confused on what they are, and they try to kind of grasp onto everything. And like, you know, no offense for them. I mean, coming out, you just don't know what you are, and you're trying to figure everything out. So I do think that there's some people that do identify as trans, and they won't necessarily end up being that in the end. With me, though, I mean, I'm 19 years old, and that's still pretty young, but everything matches up for me, and I'm not just going out there and running headlong into these things. I'm doing a lot of research on it because I never just wanted to come out as something and then revoke it. I mean, I came out as lesbian, now I've completely revoked that, but, you know, it's kind of awkward just to come out and be trans, but it would probably have been better for me. I'd probably understood myself a lot more and not try to fit into any kind of lesbian category, because I tried to be a dyke and I tried to be overly masculine, and it just came off really stupid of me. I just look like an idiot. But yeah, I've been identifying as trans for the past 5 months now, and I feel that that's what it is for me. There's nothing else. I'm not lesbian, and I'm not straight. Sometimes I'm a lot more genderqueer, but female to male, that's something that I would have always wanted. If I'd been born a guy, that would have been great. So that is my kind of coming out as trans, how I knew I was trans story. And it's starting to rain, so I'm going to go. Even though this is waterproof, I'm not waterproof. So I will talk to you guys next week.